Everyone. I hope you enjoy today's solo episode. I was really inspired by my conversation with Donovan, and I wanted to do a talk about how to manage your energy. So I'm going to share in this podcast an invitation to manage your energy for a week, to observe, to get into a neutral observer state, share a great book that changed my life, and also a framework for how to manage your energy and start to get to the root of what's really blocking your energy and keeping you from living your best life and serving your community as the best version of yourself. So I hope you enjoy it and let me know what you think. Take care, everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode. As always, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day or trusting me to be on this journey with you. So thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. As always, let's just take a little time, maybe just like a minute or two, to ground ourselves, to center ourselves. Today's episode is going to be about your energy and managing your energy. So let's just take a moment to check in with our energy. So you can take a nice deep breath in and a nice long exhale. Just kind of ground yourself wherever you are right now. And as I always say, if you're driving, don't close your eyes. And if you don't even like to close your eyes during these little True North meditations we do, then that's fine too. But just take a moment. This could be the only moment in your day where you just take a deep breath, put aside all your distractions, connect with your body, connect with your energy, connect with this moment right now, right here. Let everything else go. You can even take a nice deep breath in and exhale out and just let it all go. Kind of ask yourself, are you feeling depleted energetically? Are you feeling high energy, low energy, medium energy? Just kind of get an awareness of where is your energy at this moment. And we'll be focusing on that today, like I said. So just take a moment to check in with yourself. All right. Thank you so much. So like I said, today's really about the importance of managing your energy. You know, as educators, we give so much energy and we give so much passion, and we have so much passion, and we give so much to our craft that sometimes we give too much and we just deplete all of our energy. I think Donovan, I hope you listened to the episode with Donovan, and he talked about thinking about your battery, like the cell phone battery, and just how it could be totally empty. And I think one of the clips that really stuck out with me is when he talked about the idea of, you know, you're the educator, you're the mom, you're the giver, you're the helper, and yet you are not in your own self-care wheel, right? Your own wheel of prioritizing what matters. So today's really going to be about how to notice your energy. And I'm going to invite you to really become a detective this week, between this week and the next episode. Invite you to be a detective and observe your energy, the flow of your energy, when it's low, when it's high, when it's depleted, when you're feeling great, you just have a lot of energy. You're going to gather clues this week and see what conclusions you can draw based on that neutral observing of your own energy and your own self. So hopefully you'll join me on that quest, that journey, and we'll talk more about that. For me, starting to think about managing my energy completely changed my life as a first-year principal, actually, long time ago, several years ago. And I found a book called The Power of Full Engagement. And it was life-changing for me because it teaches and shares that it talks about we get a lot of information about time management and 7 habits and the 4 quadrants and all the things that a lot of us have read in the teaching world, the leadership world, coaching world. And this book really argues that focusing on managing your energy through the lenses of spiritual, emotional, physical, and emotional is what you should be doing, especially as a leader or an educator. Teachers are leaders in their classroom. They actually had for years, worked with Olympic athletes, elite athletes at the top of their craft, and created this whole system around energy management, and then wrote a book. And then now there's a website. I'll put all this in the show notes. And I read that book. I actually didn't have time to read it. I listened to it on audio on my way to the school, to and from the school every day as a principal. And it was life-changing because I started to really notice that my energy mattered and that I didn't have enough energy as a busy principal, and quite frankly, as a teacher, when I wasn't managing it and paying attention. So let's pay attention to that for this week. And what I really want you to hear today is that book changed my life because I took the simple act of reading it, listening to it, and really focusing on those 4 areas of where's my energy in those 4 areas. And I'm gonna give you a little assignment for the week about observing those 4 areas, and I'll give you a specific framework to observe those different energy areas throughout your week, so you can start to gather the evidence that will show you where your energy is leaking and where you're really gaining energy and what you can do about it. We'll talk about that in a future episode. But for this week, it's going to be really observing and not really trying to do too much. And so this book changed my life. But what I want you to hear today is that getting to the root of why you're lacking energy, or why you're overwhelmed, or why you're super tired is really, really important. So I would say this book changed my life, but I didn't fundamentally change the course of my life until I had my health scare, which I shared with you in a previous episode, and decided that I would re-examine my whole entire life. It wasn't until I realized that reading books like this are incredibly effective. Yet, if you're not getting to the root of the issue, to the heart of the matter, then you're kind of tweaking on the side. And let's just call something out. Let's just name something. Let's acknowledge that we have all implicitly agreed to live in a 5-ring circus, right? Let's just call it out. Now, I don't have time to talk about this for the whole episode, but just to name it and call it out, that we have agreed to live in a busy, obsessed, go, 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 do, race for status, search for the next goal, all the things that we know that makes us amazing in so many ways. And then there's a whole dark side to it, right? And so let's just acknowledge that that is the paradigm we're operating under. And I think where we can go wrong in personal development and places where we're trying to better ourselves, and podcasts like these, is that we start to try and tweak around the edges. So I read the energy management book. It's completely like, whoa, this is such a cool paradigm shift. I never thought about energy as the most important thing and not our time, right? And it makes sense if you're training an Olympic athlete that you would come to this conclusion. Like, they spend 4 years of their whole life for one event or one day, right? Or 1 week. And so that book was so effective for me, but I was still dancing around the issue, the root issue of what was actually draining my energy. And it wasn't until I had my health scare, like I said, that I realized, okay, what's going on here is that all of these tweaks on the side. So going back to this idea of our 5-ring circus world that we've all agreed to live in, and the craziness that we all deal with, and let's just call it what it is, and just say that's the as is, that we basically have decided that that's how we're going to live. And so when we get what do? We look for life hacks. How do I meditate daily for 5 minutes? How do I get the newest app so I can order online groceries, or don't have to worry about, getting my hair cut? I don't know. All the different things, right? How do we minimize our stress to maximize our convenience, to therefore create more relaxation and more joy, and spend time with people we love and do the things we like, our hobbies? Now, that's kind of what we say, but it doesn't always play out that way. So I think it's important to share that if you're not getting to the root issue, and you know this from working with kids, from working with teachers, and whether you're a leader or a teacher, whatever your role is, you know that when you don't get to the root issue, you're literally dancing on the side of it. You've got to get right to the root. So that's what I'm inviting you to do today, is to start to open up to the possibility of seeing the root issue of where your energy is going, what's really taking you down from an energy management perspective. Now, you're not going to find it all at once. You're not going to find it just because you ask one question. But I'm inviting you to start to commit to opening up to finding to searching and seeking out the root issue. Okay, so for me, the root issue, which I will talk about at different times throughout the podcast, the root issue for me was my wounded inner child. Okay, my traumatic childhood, abandonment and abuse. And that was the root issue. Everything that was about like really leaking energy, feeling really tired, like it was that energy, that part of me, that little David within me that was scared and driving from fear, right? And so that part of me was so scared that then my nervous system would be jacked up. I felt like I was unsafe and I was in danger. It was all very subtle. This is not conscious, it's subconscious, right? In the subconscious mind, I really felt like I was in danger from not feeling safe as a child. And so as I started to get closer to this root, I started to unravel and see why I was so tired all the time and what was about my busy life as a principal and as a school founder. What was it that was totally leaking my energy? It could have been a 5-minute conversation with someone who poked the trigger around abandonment. It could have been getting an email from, a founding, I remember this, getting an email from a founding family that said they were leaving after the first year. It's like, what did I do wrong? Oh my gosh, what? And what I later learned is that that's the energy of fear around my root issue of abandonment. Okay. So in this short podcast, we're not gonna be able to get into all of your root issues and go really deep on my inner child, but I will be doing that in a future podcast. I had a great conversation with Janet Roth-Philbin, who is an expert on the inner child, who's a therapist, and she's going to talk to us about how we actually work with our inner child and how we start to heal from this space, which I told you it completely changed my life. And I did a lot of sessions with Janet, and that's a teaser for another episode in the future. But today, rather than getting into all of my root issues, which we could do for a while, let's talk about where your energy is going. Let's talk about, so ask yourself the question, where do I use my energy? Ask yourself the question, so let's do some inquiry questions. Where do I use my energy most? At what times does my energy drop the most? When am I feeling filled up? Just like I have so much energy. When do I feel completely exhausted? Now, there's a whole thing around time, the different times of the day. And I know there's been books recently in the last few years about, it's not just the morning bird and the night owl. There's, I think, 6 different types now, but they're called chronotypes. But basically, all that's great. But I'm asking you to get to the root of what's going on. And in order to do that, what I'm going to ask you to do is to observe when you are having different flows of energy throughout your day. And again, we are all living in this really busy world. I was living in survival mode 95% of my day, which meant my nervous system was jacked up, which meant I was like always going, always anxious, my heart was always racing. I remember trying to sit down to just relax at the end of the night after the kids were in bed at like 9 p.m. or I had to go to school the next day. And I would always have like this racing heart. I couldn't relax because my nervous system was so jacked up, for lack of a better term, because I was constantly living in this survival state of fight or flight. And that is exhausting. And that is an energy that depletes and leaks your energy everywhere. And so it became very clear to me that I had to figure out how to deal with that before I could figure out how to deal with the other life hacks, right? Managing my schedule, coming up with the exact. I remember reading a book about like every 5 minutes you should take it. I think it was like the 60-minute. It was a 5 hour. I don't remember. I've read so many of them, but it was basically saying that every 55 minutes you set a 5-minute timer, and that's how you become the most productive leader ever. And again, these are all good. This is all good advice, but what is actually underneath it, and what are you running away from? And I think this is a really important part of this message. We have to be honest with ourselves. This is not a podcast where I'm going to give you 1, 2, 3, 4 steps about how to hack your energy so that you're amped up and able to complete 5,000 reports in one day, or get all your evaluations done as a principal, or grade all your papers as a teacher. That's not going to be this podcast. What this podcast is going to ask you to do is to get really honest with yourself, because you know yourself better than anyone else does. Anyone else does. And what is typically draining the most energy for us are the places where we're in resistance to the truth. So let me break that down a little bit. We know something to be true, and we resist it, right? We know that we want to change jobs, or we know that we are unhappy in our current place of where we live. There's so many examples, right? And these ones are kind of high stakes. I'm trying to think of like a smaller example, but we know that something feels off, either big, small, or medium, right? It just feels off. And what we do is we ignore that feeling, and then we go and we push forward. And so what happens is you're literally pushing against the flow of life, right? If you think about I say this all the time, but if you think about the river, the water in the river flowing, and a rock is there, it doesn't stop and go backwards or push through necessarily. It just flows to the side and it keeps going. So when you're not honest with yourself about what you're in resistance to, then you're actually pushing instead of just flowing like the river around the rock. And that is completely exhausting, and it takes tons of your energy, and you're basically blocking the flow of life. So as you're observing this week, where is my energy going? Where do I have energy? Observe what's happening when your energy is the lowest. Is it that you didn't get a good night's sleep? Is it that you had a difficult conversation that brought something up from your past? Is it that you ate poorly? All the things that we know. Again, these are things that you can just find on the internet everywhere, and there's books and right about self-care and all that. And I know Donovan and I had a great conversation about it, so you can hopefully get a lot of tips from that episode. But this episode's really about you being honest with yourself and committing to making change. And here's the thing. You don't have to do everything all at once. All I'm recommending you do for this week is to observe, where is my energy off? And then take those clues and start to try and put them together, and then trust your own heart. Trust the truth within you that is trying to speak to you and tell you, this is what you're in resistance to. This is where you want to open something up and create some space for the next thing to happen. That is where your life will get really interesting. So for this week, I'm going to invite you on this interesting journey to begin to observe, and we're going to use the 4 areas that they use in the Power of Full Engagement. Like I said, the areas are mental, physical, spiritual, and emotional. Okay. So let's observe for this week. I'm going to give you just a few, about one in each area that you can use as a framework to help you observe. you're observing in mental, this is the mind or the mental. I want you to just notice when your thoughts are focused on the past or the future, right? So, from listening to this podcast for the few episodes I've released, that one of the easiest ways to find flow in your life is to be in the present moment. We get so obsessed with what happened in the past, and then we project it onto the future, and we're missing what's happening right here, right now in front of us, right? So for this week, just notice your thoughts. When are my thoughts really focused on? I regularly have conversations with people that are talking about something from 30 years ago, but they still regret, or they feel like they did something wrong. Notice that. Notice that you're thinking about something from 30 years ago that is in the past. Notice that you're thinking about what you wish you would have said a week ago. And notice so that's noticing the past. And then notice the future thoughts. What do? We create so much stress and anxiety and nervousness around the future because we're projecting all of our fears. Oh my gosh, this is going to happen. I'm not going to show up on time. I'm going to get lost. The airplane's going to be late. The person that I don't like is going to show up. Like whatever we do, we project all of these fears onto the future. And then we create all this energy leaking stress from something that hasn't even happened yet. So the number one thing with your mind is watch your thoughts and see how often you can just come right back to right here, right now, in the present moment. Okay, physical. This one is really about being connected to your body. When are you tired? What are you doing? At one point I was doing 2 or 3 days of basketball and 2 days of intense training. And I was so tired and I just didn't want to admit it. I didn't want to admit that it was too much because I loved it so much, but I was so tired. So observe when your body's really tired. And it could be the opposite, like you're not working out at all and you're eating junk and then you feel really, really tired. So just notice your physical body and when you get tired. Okay, the next one is spiritual. This one I'm going to make really simple. This is really for me like the mindfulness piece. Regardless of your religion or your spiritual beliefs, this is really about find some time this week to connect with one practice, just one, that gets you into a calm, clear state. Whether it's a sitting meditation, which I'm all about that, but it doesn't have to be that. Whether it's a creative pursuit like drawing, writing, painting, whether it's walking in nature or just being in nature, playing with your animals, whatever works, journaling, whatever works for you. And if you're not sure, try it out. Just do one of them. Because it's from that space that you start to see things more clearly. So you start to understand, oh, that's why I'm so tired and leaking so much energy, because I didn't see this clearly. You start to have an insight as you're getting your mind calm and your heart clear. So just try that this week. And for the last one, it is emotional. So begin to observe how you are feeling with your different levels of energy. So this is an emotional intelligence piece, self-awareness. We're not even going to get to self-management. We're just talking about self-awareness, which I deeply believe is literally the most important skill you can possess for your life. Definitely as leaders, definitely as teachers, but for humans is to master the skill of self-awareness around an emotional space, right? From an emotional intelligence space. So just notice how you're feeling when you're most tired. Notice how you're feeling when you're energetic, and then just see what's connecting it all. Did something really positive happen? Am I doing something that I love? Did I have a good night's sleep? Was I totally exhausted? What's connecting everything when you're feeling these different ways around your energy? All right, well, I'm going to wrap it up there. I want to just close by saying, please be patient with this process. You're not going to get to your root issue in 1 day or 1 week or 1 minute or even maybe 1 year. We don't know. We really don't know. But what you can do here is you can simply commit to the act of searching for the truth, committing to seeing what is blocking your energy, what is blocking you from the flow of life, what is blocking you from the truth, and start to see how I can manage my energy to be the best version of myself. And I can tell you with 100% guarantee that once you start to master these types of things around the mental, spiritual, physical, emotional realms, you start to get more productive. You get into the flow state more often. You achieve more than you ever could dream of, but you're not searching the achievement. You're not seeking the achievement. It's coming as a byproduct of getting clear within yourself and finding the flow state and enjoying life, just being like the river and just flowing and just navigating all the different obstacles. So with that, thank you again. Last but not least, trust yourself. Please, please, please trust yourself. You absolutely know the answers. You know yourself. Like I said, you know yourself better than anyone else. So trust what you learned this week and let me know. Drop me a note on social media and let me know what's working, what's not working, what you've learned about yourself, or you can email me at david@davidkrichards.com or private message me and just let me know what's working for you and what's coming up. And I'd love to hear it. It'd be love to get some feedback. I would love to get some feedback on what we're sharing here on the podcast. All right. Have a wonderful day, everyone.